Eastern games are just more fun than Western games right now. And I think the reason is pretty simple. A lot of Eastern developers are better at selling the fantasy. They understand that people want cool characters, stories that actually stick with them, and gameplay that makes them want to keep on playing. That sounds basic, but it's not just about fun in the most simple sense. It's about giving the player something they actually want to step into. That is why, for example, Persona works. On paper, that series should be way too weird to be as popular as it is. It is a turn-based RPG, part social simulator, part anime school drama, part dungeon crawler, and somehow it also makes you manage your calendar like you're trying to survive university. But that is exactly why it stands out. Persona does not feel like it was designed by people asking how to make the safest RPG possible. It feels like it was made by people who had very specific vision, trusted that vision, and trusted the audience to either connect with it or just move on. And that is what I respect about it. I mean, even the menus have more personality than some entire AAA games. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a pretty good time to, do that. Anyway, when a game has that much confidence in what it is, you can feel it. And I think this is something Eastern games understand really well. They understand what the player wants to feel. Devil May Cry is a perfect example. That series is not subtle and it should not be. The whole point is style. The game wants you to feel cool, so the whole game is built around that feeling. You're not just clearing rooms or watching numbers go up, you are performing, and that is why it works. It knows exactly what fantasy it's selling, and it never pulls away from it. And then you have something like NieR. NieR sells completely different fantasy than Devil May Cry, but it still understands exactly what it's doing. That game is weird, and I don't mean weird in a cute way, I mean weird in why am I fighting robots in a destroyed world while the game suddenly starts making me question everything I'm doing kind of way. But that is why it works. NieR doesn't feel like it was made to be the safest action RPG possible. It has flashy combat, strange characters, depressing story moments, random genre shifts or whatever, and a world that feels completely broken, and somehow all of this feels intentional. The game knows the feeling it wants to give you, and it commits to it. It wants you to feel cool one minute, confused the next, and suddenly kind of empty because the story hits like a truck. That is why people remember it. Not because it's perfectly polished or easy to explain, but because it actually has a soul. And this is the bigger point. These games are not fun because they are perfect. They are fun because they know exactly what they're trying to make you feel. Persona wants you to get lost in its world. Devil May Cry wants you to feel like unstoppable, over the top badass. NieR wants to mess with your head a little bit. Different games, completely different fantasies, same reason they work. They commit. And I think that is what a lot of games are missing now. A lot of games feel like they have content, but not a strong reason to care about that content. There is stuff to do, but the actual feeling behind it is weak. And that is the difference. When a game has a strong fantasy, even the smaller moments feel better. You are not just doing tasks because the map told you to. You understand what the game is trying to make you feel, so even the simple stuff has more weight. That is why a game can be messy and still memorable. But when a game has no clear fantasy, all the polish in the world does not save it. It can have all the budget in the world and still feel empty, because the content alone is not enough. I don't want a game to just give me things to do, I want it to make me feel like doing them actually matters. And I think that is why Eastern games feel like they're winning right now. Not because they're all perfect, they are not. A lot of them are messy, and sometimes they make choices that are hard to explain to anyone who is not already deep into games. But I will take that over something that feels polished and empty. Because when a game has a strong identity, the rough edges are easier to accept. Sometimes they even become part of the charm. You remember the game because it actually made you react to something instead of just giving you another clean product to move through and forget. And that is what I want more of. I don't need every game to act like it's trying to win awards. Sometimes I just want the game to know exactly what it is, look me in the eyes and commit. That is the thing Persona, Devil May Cry and NieR all have in common. They are completely different games, but they all understand what they want the player to feel. And when a game gets that right, it becomes so much easier to care. That is why I think a lot of Eastern developers are still better at this right now. Their games often feel like they start with the fantasy first. You can usually understand the appeal pretty quickly. Even when a game is not for you, you can still see what it's trying to be. With a lot of modern AAA, I do not always get that feeling anymore. Sometimes it feels like the game was built to be big before it was built to be exciting. Like the fantasy came later after all the systems, monetization plans, safe decisions and market research had already shaped the whole thing. And that feels backwards. The fantasy should be the reason the game exists. That is what makes you keep playing. That is what makes a game stick in your head years later. A game does not become memorable just because it has more content. It becomes memorable because it gives you a feeling you actually want to come back to. And right now, Eastern games just seem better at giving that feeling. They still understand that games can be a little ridiculous without apologizing for it. They can be stylish, emotional, strange, or completely over the top as long as the game actually believes in what it is doing. And honestly, gaming needs more of that. Because I would rather play a game that swings hard and misses a little than another perfectly safe game that never even tries to be memorable. So yeah, Eastern games are just more fun than Western games right now. At least to me. But maybe I'm wrong. Tell me what you think in the comments. Are Eastern games actually winning right now or am I just losing my mind? Anyway, subscribe and I love you. Bye!